I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Our first order of business, as always, is to approve minutes of previous meetings. And these are both meetings for which I wasn't here, so I will first ask for a motion to approve the non-public work session on June 9, 2014.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Neil. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the regular work session of June 9, 2014.
I move those minutes be accepted as written.
I second that.
You weren't there either.
I wasn't there for any of these.
Oh, crap.
Bill.
Yeah,
That's
I
right,
was
you-
gone.
He was not here.
No, that's correct. So I can't move.
I move that we approve those minutes.
And I would second that.
All right, been moved by Neil, seconded by Armand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. And finally, the regular Select Board meeting of June 9, 2014.
I move to approve those minutes.
I second that.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Armand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. on Monday, July 14 and July 28, 2014. Work review sessions prior to the regular meetings will start at 5 p.m. We have a tentative work session scheduled for June 30th, 2014 at 5 p.m. as needed. Please note that the town offices will be closed on Friday, July 4th, 2014 in observation of Independence Day. All of the scheduled meetings will be held in the town hall unless otherwise posted. The first summer concert of this season will be held on Wednesday, July 2. It will feature Annie and the Orphans, and the full summer concert schedule as well as the Theater Under the Stars schedule will be available at the town hall. Weather observations for the month of May are available in the town hall, and citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the town hall before 12 p.m. on the Friday before the scheduled meeting. All right, moving on, we have appointments. We have 3 appointments that I believe we have previously. Have we voted these previously? No, these are new. These are new. Okay, so these are letters. We've got a letter from the chair of the Energy Commission asking for the reappointment of Larry Mochley, David Lorman, and Chris Brown as members.
I would move to reappoint all 3 of them, I believe, for a term of 3 years.
Correct. I would second that.
Yes. All right, it's been moved by Mike and seconded by Armand that they all be reappointed for a period of 3 years. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those appointments are approved. Next, we have purchase orders. We'll start with a purchase order of Steve Lefebvre, Chief Steve Lefebvre. Purchase order in the amount of $177,475 for dispatch and police building renovations.
Madam Chair, that should be carryover.
It is noted as carryover on the purchase order itself. But since we've got it first on the list, we'll...
Excuse me. Basically, that is just for the entire dispatch project and the money that We voted on at the special town meeting to carry that over into the next budget year. That's what that is for, to include the grant money. We were awarded the dispatch grant from Homeland Security. However, we haven't spent any of that money yet. We're in the process of ordering equipment for the dispatch center now.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve this purchase order for the carryover amount of?
I move that we approve this purchase order and carryover amount.
Second.
It's been moved by Neil, seconded by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. And we also have a purchase order from Chief LeFevre that is not included in our stack of purchase orders. This one is in the amount of $11,220 for IMC software.
Correct, Madam Chair. That is our police reporting software. I come before the board every year. It's for the licensing fees and service maintenance agreement with IMC. And again, there should be a notation on there. That's for next fiscal year.
Yep.
I just want the opportunity to be able to pay it right after July 1st.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the purchase order for IMC software in the amount of $11,220?
I just had a question, I'm sorry.
Yes.
It says up to. Am I on the wrong
That's a
one?
different PO.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't get a copy of this one,
We don't have a copy of it.
no.
So I move that we approve that purchase order.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a carryover request from Finance Officer Ann Abear, LGC Health Trust Safety Funds for up to the amount of $1,600. And this is the one you had a question on, Armand?
Yes, I see on the top of it, it has $100 and then $1,500. Is there just an increase with the potential of going up that high? I'm not sure who can answer that question.
This is the money that Missy actually gets as our health and safety coordinator. So it's in a separate account, Missy, for the employees that are on the insurance. You know, we get a certain amount of money to spend for, you know, like equipment if we can afford it, you know, I mean.
And this is, I think, an up to because not every employee participates in.
Well, that was more my question, yeah.
Is that it? No? Okay, what is it, Paul?
It's all purchase orders are up to the final dollar amount.
Okay,
Department heads just don't always put it on a purchase order because it's assumed,
okay.
and it's coming out of two lines, so usually when you use more than one line,
Okay.
you put up to, and finance would know to put up to on theirs.
Great.
Okay.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve this $1,600 purchase order?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Neil. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Purchase order is approved. Next, we have another carryover request, this one from Chief Clogston for fire building maintenance, repair, and replace at 46 Highland Street.
Good evening. What this is a fund that was put together for $25,000 for fix, replace, or repair budget. And once we took over the property, we did what we could with some of the funds that were left over, but with the weather and whatnot, we couldn't actually see what the ground was when we were getting some contractors in. So once we started to get that in, the time elapsed. We just started to get some prices in on some interior renovations, and to put an exterior escape route or egress from the second floor and connect the two. So we weren't able to get all that stuff finalized, put it out to bid and all that within the time frame. So we gotta carry it over into the next budget cycle.
Does this include connecting the two buildings?
Yes.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Do you anticipate that you're going to be able to do what you need to do with that building for the time being with 25,000?
It's this 25,000 and then the funds that were raised at town meeting as well.
Okay, and how much more was that? Refresh my
It was
memory.
like 30,
Okay.
I believe, what was the figure on that.
And how are you doing with that so far? Have you spent?
Right now, we're carrying this over, like I said, trying to get some prices from Constructs right now to get a ballpark on adding a bay. I believe I talked to you about this when you did a station tour. One, it would get us closer to the building.
Yeah.
It would solve an issue of storing of the trailers and the pickup, depending on the price of that. So Constructs is working on dirt work, basically a turnkey ready. I got a price from David Nash, who did the last renovation at the station, to look at the interior, the floor plan. We explained to him what we were trying to do, and then he generated the price. So the price he came in is well within budget, but no, it's such a high price, it will have to go up to bid. So I'm working on an RFP to encapsulate all this and then send it out. So.
Paul?
I just wanted to explain that to Mike. Casino has more than $25,000 like he stated, but because his money has come to him in different years, it lapses at different times.
Right, yeah.
The remainder of the money that he's talking about doesn't lapse right now. However, all the money's already been approved both at the March meeting and for this fiscal year by a purchase order. It's just that 25,000 of it will lapse if it doesn't get carried over.
I would make a motion to approve this purchase order
Second.
Moved by
for
Mike.
25,000.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, this is the copy.
Oh, that's something else?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Finally, we have another purchase order from Larry Gibson for tree trimming and removal at Riverfront Park by Top Notch Tree Experts in the amount of $1,683.
Yeah, I can speak to that. A couple of weeks ago, we had some storms come through. We took down some limbs and other tree work that needs to be done down at the amphitheater. And we had some people look at it. It's not something that we're capable of doing ourselves. So Larry came to us yesterday, last Friday, asking if we could have Top Notch go down there and do the work for them. Park and Rec definitely can't safely handle the work that needs to be done.
Bill?
Is this Top Notch like a contractor for municipality, or would
No.
you go with anybody?
No, we'll go with the lowest price. And
Did Top Notch bid on this, or just?
they don't have to. It's under $2,000. It's
Right.
under the bidding process to begin with. But, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Larry. You know, Larry does go out and ask different companies.
Right.
I can't speak to the fact on why this is Top Notch.
It's fine.
But they're a reputable outfit.
Yeah. No, that's not the question.
All right, do I have a motion to approve this purchase order for $1,683?
I motion we do approve it.
Second.
It's been moved by Armin, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This purchase order is approved. Moving on, next on our agenda, we have committee reports. Armand?
On June 13th, I attended the Plymouth Regional Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors meeting. A large part of the conversation was for the upcoming Make Music event that we had in town. A lot of things to get taken care of with that. And that went very smoothly, as from what I've heard from the townspeople anyway. It was a very positive thing. So we talked quite a bit about that, and about potentially, having more events such as that in the community to sort of bring more eyes to the community and welcome more people here.
Just a quick question, was
Yes.
that the first meeting of the chamber board that was discussed at?
In detail.
Okay, because the town was never informed about it. And, I mean, they did a permit, but we had no idea of the scope of the event. I think Chief LaFave can attest to that.
That was the first meeting that I've been a part of that it was discussed at any detail. Yeah, it was. I learned a lot at that point. I certainly was not in that loop either.
Yeah, Paul?
Yeah, I can tell as far as the town, we started being brought into the loop on Friday when somehow Bill was able to find out about it. And it wasn't until Friday that we started to realize that it was going to be bigger than what we anticipated when the permit was signed, which at least gave us a little bit of a notice for the police department, Park and Recs, and the recycling center. So, having Bill come into the office that day, I don't think we were going to know, and even after that, we really didn't know that it was going to be that. And it was a great event. It was a great
Yeah,
event.
it was definitely a huge success.
Something that would be great to
But
have every weekend.
And it's also something that if the town is made aware of the scope of it, we can not only gear up for it, but we can also make announcements on PVTV. We can, do a lot more to help promote it, and including announcements at these meetings. So for future reference, that's pretty important. Okay, anything else?
We talked a little bit about marketing, better marketing, which has been an ongoing discussion, some budget issues. But again, the primary focus was on the Make Music Plymouth event. So.
All right, thank you. Bill?
The Conservation Commission met on June 17th, and, we sought volunteers to blaze trails and clear trails, the Plymouth trails. There was also some budget questions that Anna Bear followed up with some answers. And we're looking at new trail signage, and I made an inquiry with Correctional Industries, and apparently they're the signage people to the municipalities. So they forwarded some information to us, and we'll probably obtain some more signs through them. There was also a planning board meeting on 6/19. There was a public presentation of the Tenny Mountain Highway study by North Country Council. The NCC planner, Jeff Sawaki, presented the draft report for the corridor study.
Neil?
I attended the planning board meeting on June 19th for the Tenny Mountain Corridor public presentation. And there was some concern voiced by members of the public about whether we need to have a geomorphological study of the river and whether or not Tenny Mountain Highway actually should be developed.
I have nothing to report.
All right, and I have nothing to report because I have been gone. And I understand that the Plymouth Village of Water and Sewer meeting got changed and,
To the day before I went,
yes, okay.
so I didn't, and I was here at a meeting that I couldn't have gone to.
Right,
So I
because
couldn't
you
have made it
needed to
anyway.
have the whole board here for that. All right, well, thank you. Moving on to new business, Mark Okrant regarding Merrill Street concerns.
Shall I stand here?
You can stand there, or you can have a seat here, your preference.
I'll stand. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Select Board and the Town Administrator for making it possible for us to meet in such a timely fashion. As I reported to you in my June 12th letter, the Merrill Street, Langdon Park Road neighborhood is united in its concern about escalating conditions and their negative impact upon our neighborhood and frankly on the community of Plymouth as a whole. I want to make it quite clear that none of us have come here this evening to point fingers at anyone. The problem's been identified, and now we're here to request that you move forward to implement some lasting solutions. Each of us moved to the Merrill Street Langdon Park neighborhood knowing that a long-standing tradition as a quiet area with single-family houses and values was in place. This is presently under threat. There are two principal issues that I'm going to address briefly. One is the house at 29 Merrill Street. The second is that I believe we all can agree that there is no desire nor any foreseeable need for additional student housing on the north side of Plymouth. Topic 1, 29 Merrill Street. During the last few years, 29 Merrill Street was sold to an out-of-state owner who immediately began to rent it to an undetermined number of students. The owner's careless ownership has had a negative impact upon the appearance of the neighborhood, the safety of its children, and recently we're noticing it's impacted property values of our houses. Aside from the grievances that I reported to you, and I believe you already saw my earlier document, it's apparent that the property at 29 Merrill Street breaks several zoning codes concerning access, egress, and parking, all of which impact the welfare and safety of children, not only those living in the neighborhood, but also the countless others who not only walk through past this area, but also drive past the area. It's a traffic nightmare. Secondly, I'm going to just briefly mention the further conversions. As you may or may not be aware, the house at 27 Merrill Street was recently sold to another owner whose intention it is it's rumored to be student housing. Also, the owner of 3 Langdon Park Road has informed his tenants, a traditional family of renters, of his intention to evict them by July 7th in order to rent the property to a number of students, purported to be 4. Moving forward, we recognize that you face legal issues that tie your hands to some extent. These include the definition of a single family. Having perused the zoning ordinance, I see no real definition of single family in there. Also, the town seems to have an inability to identify who will actually be living in a house following its purchase. I think this is probably true of a lot of towns. So there's no fault being pointed here. I'm just pointing this out. While these are issues we prefer you to address in a timely fashion, there are solutions we believe can be made operational today. And I'll just list these. Number 1, we ask that the Select Board implement protections by enforcing the existing parking, health, and safety codes. This can best be accomplished by applying similar measures to those that you would use downtown. Somebody parks illegally, they're ticketed. They're fined. If they were crazy enough to leave their car for a long period of time, they would be towed. Well, we feel as though if the tenants of a property violate the town's codes, a substantial fine should be levied. Not to the student occupants, but to the absentee owner of the property. Only by initiating this measure will absentee landlords take responsibility for their tenants' actions. We can't expect teenagers to know what to do. We can't expect an adult who has bought property in our town, in our neighborhood, to take responsibility for his actions. Since this may present certain challenges to the town's code officer, we recommend the establishment of a code committee consisting of the code officer, perhaps a member of the Plymouth Police Department,
perhaps a member, a university official, and others, for the purpose of hearing appeals by these offending owners. We recommend that the town and university work together to designate off-campus parking spaces for houses, such as 29 Merrill Street, which cannot offer legal parking opportunities. Ultimately, such situations should be prohibited from taking place in the first place. That house never should have been converted to student housing. But again, when it was sold, how are you supposed to know? Please allow me to strengthen several points. Number one, none of the turnover on the north side of Plymouth is truly need-driven. There's an abundance of available student housing within the PSU campus and its surrounding neighborhoods. Number two, the victims of future inaction will be the loyal community members and taxpayers you see before you. Furthermore, if you think ahead, if this situation were allowed to continue and to spread unmitigated, the problem area and the number of impacted families will increase exponentially. We'll need a larger room to hold the people who are coming to complain. The town of Plymouth has tools in place to protect our neighborhood and others. We respectfully ask that you join us by taking the recommended steps immediately and enforce these, and to proactively enact others before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to make one observation, and that is your suggestion of a committee. I can assure you that we frequently have meetings between our code enforcement officer, our police chief, PSU administration and police department, and our health and fire department to talk about these issues. It isn't a one-man show for our code enforcement officer.
I understand that's the case. However, the individual, let's use 29 Merrill Street for an example. He's sitting down there in Woburn. People try to communicate with him. They either get abused verbally or they get nothing. There has to be a reason for this guy to listen to you. And that reason, let's face it, would come from the pocketbook.
And I'd also just like to ask Brian Murphy, the code enforcement officer, you had made a point about not having anything in our zoning regulations concerning defining single-family home, and I'd just like to ask Brian to speak to that.
Madam Chair, there are two definitions of family in the zoning ordinance, related and unrelated. Related families are birth, marriage, adoption, the usual methods. Unrestricted population. There was a 3-bedroom home not too long ago that was occupied by 10 people of a related family. That goes to other issues entirely. The other definition is family unrelated. It's capped at 3. So, single family is a term of art from zoning and code enforcement and things of that nature, referring to the structure itself, its position in the zone, and not the occupants. That's addressed by the definitions.
I see.
Okay.
Thank you. And also would ask Steve Lefebvre, you had commented on the parking situation at 29 Merrill being in direct violation, and I'd just ask our police chief to...
That's correct, and it goes back towards the code enforcement actually, in that because it's classified as a single-family home, they can park all over the lawn legally.
Looking at the zoning ordinance, I noticed a couple of items. One had to do with the depth of the property. The other thing had to do with pavement, not being allowed to pave the lawn. Regardless of the situation, you're looking at a neighborhood that has, I don't know, I've lost count. I think we have somewhere in the vicinity of 10 small children living in the neighborhood, plus so many who are either walking by or driving by. If you'll allow some of the other people to speak here, that they will tell you of instances where traffic comes over. That's a terrible rise for people to be coming over and having to worry about cars backing out of that yard, having to worry about, well, we'll leave it with that. This is a safety situation, and it's all also, is there something in the regulation that allows people to have unwrapped, barreled garbage all over the property? Nothing's been done about that. The next thing you know, we'll have vermin and bears in the neighborhood. We were just talking about the number of bears around. This is ridiculous and should not be allowed to continue.
And again, I thank you. I think the key to all of this is when there is a violation or believed violation, call while it's happening, not wait until the summer months to come together. Because if our code enforcement and law enforcement personnel can't get there and pay attention to it when it's happening, there's little they can do about it. If, as it turns out, you believe that there's a zoning ordinance that's in need of changing, then it is up to any citizen of the town to petition to have the zoning changed, and it can be decided by the legislative body at town meeting, but we don't have the authority at this board to change the zoning regulations. So,
does anyone have the authority to inform this person that, if not the rule of law, certainly the rule of decency has been violated, and to fix it? And is there something that to back that up? Is there a fine in place?
there were certain...
Yes and no, not necessarily in that order. Decency is certainly brought into the play. The stick is waved at people with a letter as far as fineage. You know, fix it or get it is the way it works. I'm sorry, I missed the third point.
Fine?
That is the fine, that's the stick.
Yes.
Right. Now, in all things zoning, it's not ticketable. We don't have that mechanism in place in the town of Plymouth. It's all done through the zoning ordinance. Or, let me backtrack. You're arguing from two different areas here. One is the refuse container ordinance, the Board of Selectmen, or the Board of Health in those matters. I'm one of the designees, as is the deputy chief, fire chief. When we see that, we offer them a letter with the notice of violation. You always have to give people a way out in matters of zoning, all state law. So the approach is to ask them informally, under the decency aspect, to take care of it with the stick at the bottom of the letter, saying, if not, then. Also directions to call me for, you know, if they got any complaints or they have, you know, mitigating circumstances, everything like that. So generally I'll get the call and they'll say I'm picking it up, or I will be up this weekend and picking it up. Or I go to visit the people as I did at 29 Merrill, handed them a letter and told them to pick it up or they will get fined. They don't care, as you said, because it all goes to the property owner. His only comeback to me was, well, I can't prove my residency in town, I just moved here. I said, show the manager the letter, you can drop out anything you want. And at that point, you should have picked it up. Other than, now we're talking garbage here, not bird cages.
Now we're talking garbage.
Right. So that's the avenue we take.
And I guess the other aspect of this that I think is really important for all of us to bear in mind, and that is that, you know, while we're pointing at the absentee landlord and the property owner as the solely responsible person. The reality is that PSU does have their own stick that they can use if they get reports of student misconduct, student inappropriate behavior, all of that through their police department. And I'll just let Vice President Jim Hunreiser address that briefly, if you wouldn't mind, Jim.
Sure. Every time an incident is reported to the police department, we have a mechanism in place where they report to us. We then reach out to students if they're currently enrolled to do interventions with them. So we would encourage, as the chair is suggesting, to call.
We will, Jim.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I make a comment in response? I served a number of years on the planning board and the zoning board, and we have faced these issues repeatedly, and we have grappled seriously with these issues. And I want to assure you that this will not be taken lightly.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Having no unfinished business, is there any further public comment?
Taking the opportunity of being here with Dr. O'Krant, just curious whether there is a road reconstruction plan for the town, but more specifically for Langdon Park Road. It is becoming in pretty serious disarray based upon multiple uses, access to the park. The university uses it for their organic material dump down there, and the road's in pretty bad shape, and we're just wondering, or I'm just wondering, if there's any plan
And
for reconstruction in the future or near future of
I'll
Langdon
ask
Park
Paul
Road.
Freitas, our town administrator, to answer that.
Just gonna ask you, you said reconstruction twice, you mean repair?
Repair, whatever.
Replace, but you're not saying,
Improvements.
you're not talking about changing the road.
Well, there's no drainage in it.
There
That's
isn't,
one thing.
there isn't,
The water runs off Merrill and runs straight down Langdon Park and then erodes the gravel portion of it below the road.
Can you
there
let-
is a repair schedule. I don't know that schedule. The highway superintendent would.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Langdon Street's not on the list for this coming year. Langdon Park?
Langdon
Park.
Park Road.
Well, I know that's not on the list for this year then. And I can check and see if it is on the list.
Just curious.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further public comment, I would ask a motion to go into a non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-A:3, 2A personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are in non-public.